Hello, this is Kujo. Thank you for joining me. One of the things that I have learned from interrogating my thinking is that I've been able to identify some of the biases in my thought pattern. And I think this is a very fascinating thing. I generally am the sort of person who would go all out to avoid conflict, to maintain peace, to be in other people's good books. And I think there are a lot of people who would identify with what I'm talking about. And here's the thing, I think it makes sense that you would want to be in other people's good books if you live in a social construct such as the one that we as humans live in. If your survival depends on your cooperation with your fellow members of your species, then of course you always should be in their good books for the sake of your survival, for the sake of harmony in your group. So you've lended money to one of your loved ones or somebody that's close to you, and you have found it difficult to recover the funds. It makes things awkward. You don't want to jeopardize the relationship, so you end up just giving up and not saying anything about how you feel about it. It is very common, right? I found myself in a similar position quite recently, and well, unfortunately, the relationship eventually collapsed. But I managed to recover the funds at some point. And I remember my first instinct when I first saw the notification was to go, oh my word. The person is probably thinking that I'm a bad person for wanting this money, for that I am vindictive, for expecting that I should get this money back. Because I had a certain perception about myself that I am a good girl. I have all the right virtues of a good person, and I shouldn't expect that another person should pay back the money that I lended to them. And so this made me to feel very uneasy, and I wanted so badly to reach out to this person and say, hey, you really didn't have to do this. I didn't expect that you should give me back the money, which was not entirely the truth. So the thing here is that I felt uneasy because in that moment, my thinking was that this person has a certain perception of me, which is the opposite of how I've always perceived myself as this good person. But in that moment, I sat down with those uncomfortable thoughts, with those uncomfortable emotions, and it dawned on me that does it actually really have to matter if this person perceives me as a good person or as a bad person? Look, I mean, if the stakes are high, of course it would matter. But here's my point. There is no devil and saint in as far as the human population is concerned. There is nobody that is on the extreme ends of the spectrum. You all exist somewhere along the spectrum. Nobody is completely a really, really good person, and nobody is extremely a bad person. All of us exist somewhere along the spectrum. And I think it is really pointless to want to expect such things from other people, from ourselves even, because this is what I was expecting of myself, that this person should perceive me as a good person because this is the perception that I've always had of myself. But you know what? I've decided to reclaim my baddie. Of course I'm a bad girl, and that is fine. There are certain things that I identify in other people that I think they're not so nice traits. And I would imagine that some people would also perceive certain things about me in the same way. Does it have to matter? Not at all. Your survival no longer depends on such things. Look, if the stakes are high, of course you may try to find ways of amending relations between your fellow group members. But my message today is that reclaim your baddie. Of course you're a bad person. So what? Thank you for joining me. Goodbye.